Week 2 of the Louisiana high school football playoffs. We got it all for you here at Crescent City Sports. Lenny Vangilder along with Ken Trahan. Ken, 124 teams in action. The winners move on. The losers see their season come to an end. And if you're a winner, you're not only in the quarterfinals, you're practicing on Thanksgiving Day, as our great friend Rick Gailey used to say. Yeah, that's everybody's goal at the end of the year. If you're practicing Thanksgiving Day, it's probably been a pretty good year.
Some schools expect to do it on an annual basis. Rick's school was one of those when he had it going at St. James. Other schools, it's an unbelievable accomplishment to get that far. So let's get right into it.
Let's start with Division I non-select. And let's start with, first of all, what you think is the best matchup as you look at this one on paper. Of course, the top 4 seeds on the non-select side getting into action for the first time this week.
I like Walker Southside, a 22 versus a 6. Southside is a rising program, one of the bigger schools in the state. New school system and a new school zone in the Lafayette area over the past 5 to 7 years. And Jess Curtis, the state championship coach, is there, and he's already got the Sharks in really good shape. They're the high seed, but the 22 is a dangerous team. Walker has some really good wins this year. They whipped touchdown, a one-loss team last week, second time they've beaten them this year, and that's a state championship coach there too in Mahaffey. So, look, that's a really good matchup. To me, that's probably as good as any, but I think there's a lot in non-select 1. I think Chalmette-Huntville's a good game. Chalmette beat Terrebonne last week in Huntville's district, whom they tied for a district title with. And, of course, West Monroe and Mandeville, really good matchup, and certainly an upset special, which we'll get into. That's another one that certainly stands out to me.
Yeah, and of course, you can't help but look at Ruston Zachary, a rematch from the Dome a year ago. That is this year a second-round game. What's the upset special? Who could possibly be a road team winning this week?
Well, I certainly feel Trahan's going to win. They're a 10 seed at Northwood, who had a good win over Salmon last week. The last 2 years before that, Brother Martin and Rummel knocked out Northwood, and they're facing the kind of competition that's knocked them out previously in Trahan. Might even be better. So I certainly like Trahan to win that game. Look out for Westgate, an 18 seed. They're used to being there. They're an airline who can score, but Westgate can really play, and they're athletic. And then, of course, the Mandeville-West Monroe game, with Shepherd being out, it's an even-Steven contest.
Absolutely. We move on to Division II. Again, the top 4 seeds did not play last week, and if the number 1 seed, Franklinton, gets their first shot against West Feliciana. Your thoughts on the bracket here as we get to 16?
Well, I think the best matchup is unquestionably Cecilia at Lutcher, the 18 at the 2. Cecilia is so much better than an 18C. They are dynamite offensively, can score with anybody in the state. Lutcher's good defensively, so it's the unstoppable force and the immovable object. But Lutcher's unbeaten. They're at home. It's hard to win at the dog yard, so hard to pick an upset, but I think that's a great matchup. And as for the other games that certainly stand out to me, the 9A matchup's a good game. Iota Lakeshore, that figures to be very close. As far as upsets are concerned, look, I like the 14 Opelousas over the 3 Jennings. Opelousas has been there, done that, vastly underrated and underseeded, and I think they'll win the game.
Yeah, things were quiet in St. James Parish last week. Lutcher and St. James each have byes. As we move on to Division III non-select, there we get to St. James and their chance to play an opener against a district rival in Donaldsonville.
Yeah, certainly, and I like St. James at home in that game. You have familiarity, obviously, but they're well-rested, and they're very good, and they're extremely well-coached under Levanta Davis, and they've been there, done that before, so certainly like them. In terms of the best game and matchup in that particular class, look, I think the 9-8 with Pine and Kaplan is a really good matchup. At Kaplan, so a slight edge there, but that's a good matchup. Upsets are hard to find in this particular bracket. If I had to look at one that's at least a possibility, the 26 Port Allen at the 7 Gina. Gina's still good, but they graduated a bunch of players from last year, and Port Allen is a pretty solid football team.
As you move on to Division IV, on the non-select side, from our area at least, the highest seed remaining, the number 2 seed South Plaquemines gets in action after a first round bye.
Yeah, really good football team. Laufete's done a great job, and I think they have a real shot to get to the Dome, as the seed would suggest. In terms of the best matchup, look, I think that Mangum and West St. John, the 7 and 10, is a really good matchup. West St. John is vastly improved over where they've been the last couple of years. The numbers are up, the ability's up. That's a really good matchup. As for upsets, I'd take a look at General Trask, the 12 at North Iberville. North Iberville is a great story. They've had a really good year, but against better competition, struggled a little bit. So I think General Trask has a real shot in that game.
Will be interesting to see as we switch over to Select Division I. Of course, in the Select brackets, each of those brackets are 24 teams. The top 8 seeds, the home teams this week, are all well rested coming off of byes. The road teams all had to win a week ago. The number 1 seed in action for the first time, Edna Carr. They will host Huntington. A number of New Orleans area teams obviously still alive here. Your thoughts on the bracket?
Huntington has size, but Carr's too good. Stay tuned for that. I think the 9-8 is a fantastic game. St. Augustine and St. Thomas More, 2 teams that could win a state championship. I mean, they're both really good, and if everything falls right, one of them could end up in the Dome. They'd have to beat Carr, obviously, to get there, but I really like that matchup, and the winner of that game was my dark horse to win it, as I picked it before the entire playoffs started. You know, if you're looking for another potential upset there, I certainly think that Jesuit has a great chance to win at number 6 Sterling's Catholic. I like Jesuit up front. I think they're good on offense and defense up front. They've played very tough competition, and you throw out 2 games this year that they played, and they've been a really good football team. And then, of course, the other matchup that certainly gets your attention, most intriguing, probably Acadiana and John Curtis Christian, because they run the same offense, and they played each other the last 3 years. I covered the game at Joe Yenny when Acadiana won on a rescheduled game, and then Curtis won the last 2 years, including in demonstrative fashion in the most recent matchup. So I like Curtis at least to have a chance in that game. Hard to pick against Acadiana at home, though.
Division II select, of course, the story early in the week, U-High losing their court case with the LHSAA. They have forfeited, so Booker T. Washington gets to relax this week. They are on to the quarterfinals. They will await the winner of Leesville and Loyola Prep. Of course, Thursday night, it's Haynes against Estruma, so 6 games remaining on Friday night. Which one are you looking at?
Well, with U-High out, I think it makes Archbishop Shaw the favorite in this division. They're the 1 seed anyway, and I think Hayne Tierney's done a fantastic job, and I think they are the team to beat in this particular division. In terms of matchups, I mean, there's a couple of good ones here that I'd really like that I think are going to be good games. The one that certainly is most intriguing to me is number 12 St. Charles Catholic and number 5 Madison Prep. Madison Prep beat University Lab. That tells you a lot. St. Charles Catholic is St. Charles Catholic. Ignore the record. They're tough, and you've got to beat them, and they can win the kicking game against virtually anyone. They're on the road, but I think that's a real upset possibility for St. Charles Catholic. You want to see a game with athletes? Go see number 9 Lake Charles College Prep and number 8 JFK at Pan Am. Linares Page has done a great job, and he's withstood a couple of forfeits this year. Otherwise, he would have had a very high seed. They're a dangerous team. Lake Charles College Prep is no slouch. I think that is another good matchup.
And if you look there at the bracket, you got a chance for a playoff rematch if the seeds hold. Kennedy and Shaw met a year ago in the playoffs. They could meet again next Friday night if those home team can win. And as you move on to Division III, Dunham is the number 1 seed, undefeated. Newman is the number 2 seed, undefeated. Both of those in action for the first time this week. What do you like here?
Well, I certainly think Dunham, with its quarterback, has earned the number 1 seed. They're undefeated. They played really good all year. Neil Wander's done a great job, and this could be their year. Newman is undefeated as well. They only played the 8 games, and they've had time off, and the competition, they haven't been tested since really the first week and then the last week of the season, but they're good enough, and they've got what you need, which is a terrific quarterback and Eli Friend to go with a really good coach. Then, of course, if you're looking at upsets, I like the 12A meet at the number 5 Bunkie. Bunkie's a great story, undefeated, maybe the best season ever, but Amite has been there, done that. You know that. You've seen them. You know what they're all about. They know how to play this time of year. The other intriguing matchup is a rematch game. Notre Dame, the 8, hosting its district rival, the 9, Lafayette Christian. Lafayette Christian changed coaches in midstream. Kind of an uneven season, but we saw them when they're right. And when they're right, offensively, can play with anyone. That one could be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, a lot like St. Charles Catholic. You throw the record out there, there's certainly a team this time of year that you got to pay attention to. Lastly, Division IV select, the one local team that sat out last week, Riverside Academy. They get in action this week against Hamilton Christian. A lot of intriguing matchups here.
Well, I think what's good about Riverside is they're on the other side of the bracket from Vermilion Catholic. So that is a good thing for Lee Russell's team. They can get to the Dome again. They're good enough to do it on the bottom half of the bracket. They got Hamilton Christian. I think Riverside will win at home in that game. A rematch game and a district game between Covenant Christian and undefeated team in Central Catholic, 25-7 during the regular season, but I think this one will be closer. What stands out to me about this bracket is the fact that you got 3 double-digit seeds that are going to win. I mean, in my mind, I think the 12 Kentwood is going to win at Ascension Episcopal. I think the 13 Southern Lab is going to win at St. Frederick. And I think the 11 Washita Christian is going to win at Catholic Point Capite. So those are traditional powers that happen to be lower seeds, and they're very good. And then, of course, the 9A matchup is good. St. Martin's Episcopal has a chance anytime they show up with Harlan Berry, and they're at the 8 St. Edmund. The Blue Jays are good. That'll be a good football game. Another one that could be high scoring.
The best place to get all the scores right here at CrescentCitySports.com. We'll have all the updates throughout the weekend. Of course, check out Ken Trahan's original Prep Football Report. And where else would we be to talk about high school football than right here at Ed Daniels Field, right?
The only place to be, no doubt about it. Love you, Ed. But also want to mention, too, you've got to be with us on 106.1 The Ticket and at CrescentCitySports.com. On 106.1 The Ticket, the original 6 hours of coverage. We have reporters and all over the state. We'll have that. And within the show, we have a game broadcast of Archbishop Rummel against McDonough 35 from Joe Yanni Stadium. Don't worry, you're still going to get all the reports and all the scores through CrescentCitySports.com. And then live on CrescentCitySports.com, another really good matchup. The aforementioned game between Chalmette and Hanville will be a great crowd. Should be a good game. Two well-coached teams. And we look forward to that one. Watch it live on Crescent City Sport and via replay, always free.
No question about it. Stay with us here at Crescent City Sports for all your prep coverage.